Welcome to today's Instagram Live. I'm Vidushi, a member of the Book Nerds editorial team, and today we're going to be in conversation with someone very, very special. He's a writer, actor, educator, lyricist, and just an all around amazing person. So, without further ado, let's call upon Deepak Ramola, the author of 50 Toughest Questions of Life, published by Penguin Random House, a book that left me completely in shambles. I'll just add him on to the live and then we can go ahead. I started reading this book like at the start of the year because for the first time I can finally say that for the first 10 days of January, I did complete my reading resolutions. You really helped me reach my reading resolutions this year, Deepak. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I'm so happy that you're here with us.
Thank you so much for having
How's your day been going?
I've been literally sitting at this spot and soaking in the sun, being in Dehradun. I don't think so we move on the weekends at all. I have literally sat since morning at the exact spot and I was so happy that I'm getting to speak with a fellow Dunite.
I cannot tell you how much I love the sunlight at this point. Like I read this book all day. Like for all the days that I read this book, I was totally in the sunlight the whole time. I have this spot in my garden. It's just the best spot with all the sunlight, and it's amazing.
I have the same feeling, so I share that. And it's actually it's very good that you say that, because so many readers who've written to me have said that it's a book that gives you the warmth that you feel on a winter afternoon, and it's perfect to read it with that metaphor.
So what better to than read it in a sunlight?
Yes, true.
Okay, so I am going to go on a complete fangirling tangent over here for a second.
Okay.
I loved the book. I really, really did love the book. It's completely amazing and it's so, so flawless. Like, I have never finished a book and felt so understood by it.
Thank you.
Like, just 3 chapters in, and I was feeling things that I never thought were possible. So, thank you so much for the book. However, did you compile a list of such daunting questions? Please tell me.
Thank you, first of all, for that compliment. I get to hear that. It was a very daunting task for myself. The book is called 50 Toughest Questions of Life, but it took me 3,000 questions to filter through to arrive at 50. And it took me a year and a half of answering every question. And I can tell you, I cried at so many questions. I left some questions for 6 months and I said, I'm not ready to answer them. So I am glad people are only getting to answer 50, because my journey was more, excruciating, but rewarding as well, because at the end of that journey, I felt maybe if I have been able to know so much about myself through these questions, so will probably the world. And that's why I wrote the book and shared it. And my editor, Radhika, showed faith in it. And I mean, here it is with people.
Well, we're so thankful. Maybe for the other 3,000 questions, we can get a sequel to this book. Who knows?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I have already, it's funny you say that, because I've already started compiling other questions. People have been sending me tough questions that they said must be in your next book. So I'm going to have a lot of content.
Well, we're all waiting for it. You mentioned a lot of times in the book that you didn't really plan out making an organization out of like collecting life lessons. But then how did it turn out that way? How did you turn this dream into a reality?
It actually happened organically. I was doing theater. I was in Bombay, just doing what people from small cities do. They try to do a lot when they go to Mumbai for studies. And I was just seeing how people in Mumbai had very, mixed perceptions about people from small town. A lot of my friends thought I didn't know what oregano was. We went to a Pizza Hut and I said, "Can I have some oregano?" And they said, "You know about that?" And I said, "Dehradun is not a village." And similarly, when I came back home, a lot of my friends or family here thought that Mumbai is this really complex web where all, mysterious, glamorous or dark things happen. I wanted to create a bridge. And I thought the best way to do that is to pass on life lessons of small cities to big cities and big cities to small cities. And slowly that whole methodology became recognized as an innovation in education. And 11 years later, I find myself teaching human wisdom with the same or even renewed enthusiasm of, other people's energies. So it's been a wonderful discovery for my own self.
Oh my God, I feel even more related to you now because you said that someone like basically perceived about you that you're from a village, because that happened to me when I went to Mumbai, and it's so insane to think about sometimes.
Yes.
Do you get recognized now very often, like especially in Dehradun?
I would say, I mean, those who are not from Dehradun and watching this, I must say, I was spotted at Buffet because I love the burgers there. And a couple of months, ago, my sister and I went right before the lockdown had been eased out. We went to eat at Buffet, and someone had seen my TED Talk with Shah Rukh Khan. And as I was eating, this man was staring. And then at the end of it, he said, "आप वही हैं जो पूछते हैं जिंदगी बहुत कुछ सिखाती है." And that's the time I thought, okay, probably it's nice to be recognized with the work. But yes, it happens. I mean, most of the time people who used to meet me at airports before lockdown used to say, आपने हमारे DM का reply नहीं किया. So I was three times more conscious when people would say, I have recognized you. But I feel seen and I feel heard. And I don't know if that is as much as being recognized, but being seen and heard, and knowing that what you say matters to somebody is really, really heartwarming to me. So that's more important for myself.
Truly, truly. Um, like, how has been the lockdown for you? Like, did you get any reading done, any writing done? How has it been for you?
Wow, I finished reading 12 books. There was so much time. 12 books. I mean, yeah, I was surprised at myself. And really like thick ones. I reread some of the books that I love. I did finish writing my next Hindi book, which is a collection of poetry and ghazals. So I finished writing that because I thought, kahan aur time milega?
We're getting more.
I mean, but that's the thing, right? There is so much to say, there is so much to feel. And I never feel one book is enough to say all that. And, I have a promise. My name has a promise. And I want to be able to live up to that promise as often as I can. And before the lockdown, there was always a complaint. I don't have time. I'm traveling. I'm going from one city to another. But the lockdown gave me time to be with my parents, to get their critique. My sister was here in town, so luckily she proofread a lot of stuff. 50 toughest questions was just in the process of getting released and launched. So I started working on that. But yeah, the lockdown was productive, but I was also very anxious, to be very honest. It
A lot of us.
Yeah, I am home in hotel rooms. I'm home with people, with communities, asking questions, documenting. Being in one place for a long time, as many people around the world, I was very anxious on many days. But the only cure for it was working and making something out of it.
Truly. Do you think that because you're from such a relatively small town like Dehradun, that it somehow helps you see out of the box, that you have a much more different perception than a lot of other people on the same journey?
In what context do you mean that?
Like, there was this section in the book where you talked about you were traveling somewhere, and there was this story of two trees, one with the antidote and one
Yes.
with the poison. And you looked at it in such a different way, when the locals must have also heard it, but they never really imbibed it. So in that context, do you think that outsiders who are coming into Dehradun also, they look at it things in a lot more different way, and that also helped you in your journey?
Absolutely. I think any person who travels, whether you're coming from outside to a place like Dehradun, which is gorgeous, or if you are going out from Dehradun to any place, I think you arrive at life with a fresh perspective. That's why people travel so much. You might have seen the same tree growing in your backyard, but when you see it on a hilltop eating Maggie, and with the backdrop of a sunset, you feel that this is the first time you are experiencing this. And it allows you, I think travel allows you to enjoy the smaller, the sweeter moments of life more in depth. And I mean, Dehradun has so much to offer. I write half, my books here, sitting in my studio or at my home, looking at this tree which is right behind me. I have written almost 18 poems on this tree that's behind me right now. In my first book, in my second book that's
That's a
coming out.
very creative tree. I would like to see it in person.
But that's the thing which is very interesting. You can look at the same thing and stare till the point you find something new, and you allow things to serve you inspiration. There is this myth, I would say, in young writers, that you have to travel the world to arrive home with experiences to write. But I feel you have to be home and travel with every single thing around you so much that you are able to help the world come to your home, not take them outside from theirs. So this tree, I mean, during the lockdown, every evening I would be on the terrace, and there would be a bird sitting. Someday there would be a cloud in the backdrop of the tree. I wrote so much, and the funny part is this tree doesn't bloom. It's वो बिल्कुल सूखा हुआ बंजर पेड़ है. Or I have looked at it from the perspective of relationships. I have looked at it from the perspectives of dreams, sleep that doesn't have dreams. It's a lot of different things.
See, this is what I was saying. Your perspective is so refreshing. It's amazing.
Thank you.
So, it's only been 10 days into 2021, but so much all has happened till now. Your book has been out for a while. Season 4 of Twice as Wise has started. How's it all going?
Wow, so much to soak in. I'm actually taking time to just enjoy. I never make New Year resolutions. I stopped making New Year resolutions about 6 years ago. It's too pressurizing to think ये भी करना है, ये भी करना है, ये भी करना है. I rather, now what I do for last 6 years is, you might, or some of our viewers might find it interesting. I take a word and I want to feel that word through every decision, every project, every work that I do through the year. So last year my word was empowered. And even in the lockdown, when I had almost a 6-country tour planned with my work, got cancelled, I thought I still want to feel empowered sitting in my house in Dehradun. And so I wrote the Hindi book, and 50 Toughest Questions, was getting launched, and the content around it. So I'm still deciding on my word for this year, but I think it is somewhere enjoy. I have worked really hard in the last few years. I want to enjoy in 2021 whatever I have been able to cultivate. So the 10 days so far have been really, really abundant with the love of people for the book. Somebody wrote to me that they ordered the book for themselves, and their father received the courier, opened, and said, "You're not getting the book till I finish it." So I think that is a gift I didn't even conceive when I was writing the book, and it's such an honor.
Oh my God, you have inspired so many people here today with the no resolutions thing, but you have also made me keep up mine. I had these reading resolutions that I wouldn't read a lot of fiction this year and a lot of romance, which I usually tend to do. But with this book, I have kept up my resolutions for the past 10 days, which is an achievement.
Oh, congratulations.
Since I usually let go at
Amazing.
I usually let go at day 2.
Yes.
Okay, so you write in both Hindi and English. How is that experience for you?
Wow, that's an interesting question. I don't see them as two separate things. There are certain things that speak to me, and the thought is in English. There's no other way. Like, this book was in English. When I thought of 50 questions, of course, there's now a translation available, which is Jeevan ke 50 Mahatvapurn Sawal. But I didn't think of it that way. And there are certain moments when I think in Hindi, and I don't see them as two separate things, because as human beings, language is like food. You don't say, "मैं बस अब आलू खाऊंगी जिंदगी भर और बस वही है." You experiment with other vegetables. You experiment with food. You make buffet out of it. You make starters out of it. You make soup out of it. I think as human beings, we mistake language to be a hammer, and we try to put that hammer and strangle things with that. I see it as a garden. You pluck a flower today, and tomorrow you can grow another flower and borrow things from there. यहाँ देहरादून में रह के गढ़वाली आपने कई बार सुनी होगी। इतने खूबसूरत शब्द हैं भाषा में, किसी भी तरह की भाषा में। गढ़वाली में एक शब्द है खुद, जिसका नाम मैं जिस शब्द के बारे में मैं इस किताब में भी लिखता हूँ। एंड उस शब्द का मतलब है, यहाँ जो सुन रहे हैं उनको मैं बताना चाहूंगा कि जब किसी की याद आती है तो यहाँ गढ़वाली में कहते हैं कि मन खुदेड़ लग रहा है, या खुदेड़ गीत होते हैं, किसी की खुद लग रही है। एंड दैट मीन्स that you miss. It's not the translation of missing somebody. The word khud doesn't have a translation in any other world language. It means to miss somebody to a degree where you forget oneself. अब आप सोचिए, अगर उस शब्द को हम बोरो न करें गढ़वाली से, तो किसी भी भाषा में हमें उसका अनुवाद या उसका जस्टिफिकेशन नहीं मिलता. So, and I'm trying to write more in Garhwali. I'm trying to ask my mother for more words. But I mean, it's an attempt. Language is an attempt every day, and you can't fail. So I love English and Hindi equally because I love language.
Oh my God, don't even remind me about Garhwali. My grandparents have already told me too many times to learn the language.
Yes, but
Okay, so
it's one of the richest vocabularies. One of the richest languages to have the richest vocabularies. Yeah.
totally. You said hammer, and I am instantly reminded of this part in the book that I absolutely, absolutely loved. It was from chapter 4, where you're talking about love, and love is my favorite theme to read about.
Okay.
And I'm just going to read aloud this passage for everyone out there,
Sure.
because it really inspired me a lot. Real love softens you till you dissolve into your own happiness. It allows you to absorb others into your world and expand if need be, like the universe. Not stand up like a wall and demand everything to hit you hard before it can belong to you. Be cautious of people who try to convince you otherwise. No hammer has ever helped a flower bloom. And it's just, oh my God, I can't
Thank
even
you.
fathom how unbelievably beautiful that is.
Thank you.
How do you manage to write such inspirational words that basically inspire the generations forward to read, to learn, to get into the art of reading and writing? And what are your inspirations behind reading and writing?
Nature inspires me a lot. That entire paragraph I wrote looking at my garden in the studio, and I thought, no flower actually asks which flower is growing in the neighborhood. No river asks, दूसरी नदी का रास्ता क्या है, मैं उसी के जैसे चलूंगी. But collectively, all of these elements enjoy their individuality, and collectively they form something more meaningful. I borrow inspiration from nature. I write to remind people what I need to remind myself. So I have this whole theory when I sit to write, that I need to write something that I will like to hear sometime in my life, or in a bad phase, or in a disappointing day, or in a hard decision. I write for myself. I think we all are alarm clocks, and we need to be able to tickle, ringle, ring, to remind ourselves what we need to hear. I needed to hear that no hammer ever helps bloom a flower. I also wrote that statement from the information that, आजकल क्या मतलब कई सालों से there is a tendency in people to tell you, अरे आप ना जरा से मोटे हो गए हो, but it's okay. Or I don't know why you talk like that, or why you look like that. They will say things and then they will go. But that thing will stay with you, and it'll harm you continuously. But you think to yourself, I love this person. This person loves me. And yet I feel bad. And that's where the thing comes from. That there is an African saying which says, be cautious when people peck you to death. Peck you to death means some people don't have the guts to come at you and say, I hate you, and I don't want to talk to you for the rest of my life. Instead, they will come to you and say, I don't think you think the right thoughts. Or they will come to you and say, I don't know, yaar, your vibe is very off these days. They will not tell you the specific reason, but they will hammer you to bloom. And that just doesn't work. I think that is the thought behind it. But my other inspirations include Maya Angelou. If anybody wants to pick up the books of Maya Angelou, Dr. Maya Angelou, the African American author, I love. Ruskin Bond, who's our own very much Uttarakhand-based writer. His books I have come to adore. So yeah, those are some of my big inspirations.
Ruskin Bond is a true classic at this point for all Dunites.
Yes.
What was your favorite chapter from the book?
Oh wow. It's a very popular thing to say that when somebody asks you to pick a chapter, it's like माँ से पूछो कि कौन सा बच्चा ज़्यादा प्यारा है. But I'm not
Oh
gonna
no.
I'm not gonna go there. I have a favorite chapter and I can tell you. It's page 65. How can someone make you feel more loved? Is my favorite chapter, and I can tell you why
Oh
it's my
my.
favorite chapter. Do you like it as well?
Yes, I do. But my favorite has to be the one that talks about goodbyes. I got really, really emotional when I read that chapter. It's very
Okay.
beautifully written.
I would like to.
And because you talk about your sister in that, oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Yeah, I mean, my sister is one of
Because
those.
you also talk about your sister in that, and I have a sister who I love very much, and it just sent me into the spiral. My heart just collapsed. It
Yes.
was very emotional.
What the question is, what would be the hardest goodbye for you to say? Yeah, my sister.
Yes.
Everybody who likes me only likes me until they meet my sister. And so I have lost all my friends to my sister because she is so amazing. She is 8x more caring, empathetic, kind, understanding, and loving than me. And so I don't mind, people loving her more because I love her more than myself. My sister is amazing. But I would like
Is your
to,
sister,
yeah,
is she your elder sister?
she's my
Is she
eldest
your
sister.
elder sister?
Yes, she's a,
It's all with all the elder sisters. They're all nice and they're all motherly and they're all so great.
yes. But
I'm
the
so sick of
interesting
it
thing
now.
about my sister is that I do so much. And for any sibling to be with a person like me would be very difficult because I am on many days overproductive. I am traveling the world. I'm teaching 4.5 lakh people. I'm running an organization. I'm writing songs for Hindi films. I have books out every day. It can be very daunting to be a sibling. But my sister has never made me feel reduced because of my success. And I think it's a very, very difficult thing to achieve. We have struggled with friends. You do so much and you start to intimidate your friends. Imagine that for a sibling who's constantly seeing you in the newspapers or seeing an article about you. My sister, the reason I love her more is because she truly enjoys seeing me succeed, and that's such a rare gift in life. And so I mean, I cannot thank her enough for making me feel so safe and secure. Yeah.
Your favorite part?
Yes, I was reading to you from my favorite chapter. It's on page 65. How can someone make you feel more loved? And the part is the interesting thing to attempt is to make people fall in love with themselves a bit more. In a world of social media evaluation, constant comparisons, false perceptions, and derogatory comments, the easiest thing to do is to make someone feel lost, less valued, like they don't belong and they don't matter. The harder thing is to make the same person who has been brainwashed by the standards of pretentious beauty and unauthentic power believe that they too are beautiful, and that if they feel it for a brief moment, they are quite further along to actually living it routinely. It takes years for a river to originate and a lifetime to navigate through the face of earth, nourishing civilizations. And for us, a few seconds coupled with ignorance to pollute it. People are like rivers. Don't dump the garbage of your hate into their sacred waters. Rather, ask them and yourself, how can someone make you feel more loved? How can someone make you feel more loved? So that's a passage I love in the book.
Finally I'm realizing who I'm talking to. Like, I have had your voice and your words in my head for so long now
Thank
while I
you.
was reading this book, and finally it's hitting me that you're in front of me and you wrote this book.
Oh,
And like, how can a human being write such beautiful things? Like, it shouldn't be allowed.
thank you.
We'll all start standing you.
Thank you.
Okay, so what was the process of publishing this book, especially with Penguin?
I mean, I had sent the manuscript to Radhika Marva, who's my wonderful editor at Penguin Random House. And Radhika, in I think just about 20 days, had read all the sample chapters, wrote back to me and said, "We want to do this book and we want to do another book with you because I think you have a lot to say." And I felt so safe with Penguin, with this book because it's not your usual self-help. It's an interactive journal coupled with an autobiography. It's a memoir laced in anecdotes, almost a raconteur style of writing. It is many of those things. It's essays, but also, uh, almost a diary entry. It is a card game laced into a book. It was so complex to explain this book to people that when Radhika wrote to me, she said, "I read the questions and my answers, I think, will change over time. And I think we would like to publish it." So the process of publishing this book was very rewarding because of the people who were part of it. Because I actually, more than the readers before, I wanted people who were going to print or publish this book to read the book and enjoy it. And if they got something out of it, I thought the world would as well. So it was an honor. And Radhika, my editor, has been a dream to work with. She's so much fun. I bug her, with my questions, and she responds very, very nicely. I think she's almost dealing with like a teenager, enthusiastic author, not really a matured, seasoned writer.
Well, we are all childs at heart.
Yes.
Okay, so there's this part in the book that I really like. It's about one-line introductions and descriptions with love, that too. I loved it. So, what is your one-line description or introduction with love?
Yes, the question is, how would you introduce yourself with love? And before I answer your question, let me tell you why I wrote that. I think we are asked that question more than 5, 6 times, a week. So who are you? Tell me about yourself. And people always talk about what they do, not who they are. And you talk about, "Oh, I'm Deepak Ramola. I am the kindness ambassador for UNESCO MGIP. I'm an author of 2 books. I'm the founder of Project Fuel." And that title is very limiting because I was not an author 3 years ago, but I am today. So it keeps on changing what you do. Introduction with love means to tell people who you are so that when they meet you 5 years later, they can still remember what you said. So to answer your question, I am Deepak Ramola, and I am trying to be a constellation in a world full of stars. That's my introduction with love.
Oh my God, why do you keep getting better and better?
But isn't that the whole point of living? That you take what you learned yesterday and move forward.
Truly. Okay, so how difficult was it to write this book? Because there are so many parts of you that make you who you are, that shaped you to be the person that you are today. So how difficult was it to let it out into the world for everyone to read and judge?
Very difficult. I can't tell you the amount of times I've cried writing this book. Primarily because when you are answering 50 toughest questions for strangers, you think of, there is a right answer and there is a popular answer. And first you want to write the popular answer because you think everybody's going to love this answer and it'll make you seem so perfect. And then there's a voice inside your heart that says, "But that's not the truth. You're trying to say what's right or what's popular, but that's not the truth." And to convince yourself that you're going to write your truth for the world and for eternity to absorb is a very, very difficult thing. Also, writing 50 toughest questions, my responsibility was not to stand at the end of a tunnel and tell people it's dark, it's crazy, but you will get out. I didn't want to be that person. I wanted to stand beside them in the tunnel and say, "We will find light, hopefully together." And I wanted to be vulnerable, which is not always an easy thing, but it's always worth it once done. The other difficult thing was, or the big challenge was, not writing my answers in a way that people's answers get colored. I didn't want somebody to make my answer their answer. And so I did so many rounds of re edits till the book went to the final draft for publishing, I was changing a few things here and there because I didn't want my answers to color the answers of the readers. And that was a very difficult thing, because one thing is to write. I say to write is to pray and curse at the same time. And that's what it felt like writing this book.
As much as I would love to go on, because you're such an interesting person to talk to all the time,
Thank you.
we have to cut this short. But lastly, I would like to ask you this one last thing. Please give us this one life lesson that you can share with us today.
Sure. And before we do the last question, should we ask anybody who wants to ask a question? Should we do a one or two question from our wonderful viewers?
Definitely.
So anybody, if you have a question.
There are a lot to go through though.
I mean, yeah, people are very, very kind. But one life
mostly lesson, though, there are all praises for you, because we all love you so much.
Oh, thank you. I'm very grateful. And if any one of you who's listening right now wants to ask a question, feel free to, while I answer the question that I'm asked. The life lesson that I would like to offer right now is a life lesson I recently received at Project Fuel. And the lesson was, if you don't heal from the wounds that cut you, you will bleed on people who did not. And I thought, that's so wonderful. If you do not heal from the wounds of those who cut you, you will bleed on those who did not. So हम अपना एक जगह का गुस्सा कहीं और जाके निकालते हैं. And that life lesson is a wonderful reminder that we have to be able to heal ourselves and get to the next phase of that growth that we also very much long.
I have stopped functioning correctly now. I am very, very much malfunctioning by the life lesson you just gave. Now, this is going to stay in my mind for the rest of eternity.
Thank you. I hope so. I hope so.
And it really is. This whole entire book, it's going to stay with all of us, all the readers that you have. And it's just such an amazing book to read. It's so introspective and so thoughtful. Thank you for reading.
Thank you.
For writing this. And thank you for being with us today.
Yes.
It's been lovely talking to you.
Should we do a question?
I haven't received the question yet.
I am seeing it down. So can I read it to you?
Okay, so yeah.
So there is someone called Hyatiko Rama, if I'm pronouncing that right. They write how to develop empathy for people. I would like to answer that. I have an answer for that question. The great philosopher and American author Ram Dass says that when we go into a forest, we see different kinds of trees. Trees that are bent, trees that are crooked, trees that are tall, trees that are barren. And we accept the trees for who they are. We try to understand that this tree did not get proper sunlight, so it's short in height. This tree battled a storm, so it's fallen down. But we lose that sense of empathy when we come back from a forest to the city forest and we see people. We say, you're too this, you're too that, you're too short, you're too tall, you're too ugly, too fair. We try to lose the empathy we develop in a forest. So to be empathetic, to be more empathetic, treat people like trees, like you would do in a forest. You admire them for who they are, not as you would have wanted them. And so I'm borrowing that answer of the philosopher Ram Dass for you, Herto Rikama. There's one last question that I think we can take is from the hippie traveler. She says, any guidance on how to respond to appreciation? How is one supposed to react to growth? The most genuine, authentic, and wholesome answer to a compliment is a heartfelt thank you. You don't have to deny it. Many people, people would earlier say to me, and I did this for a long time as well. Somebody would say, oh, you look good today. And I'm like, no, it's okay. I mean, it's just this sweater, Or they'll be like, oh, I like your book. And I'll be like, oh, you're so kind. We try to deny it. Like it's a bad thing to be complimented. Appreciation is a badge of honor. And the only thing you can really say is thank you, and take it, absorb it, and then use it to your advantage when you don't feel so good. Remind yourself of the days when somebody told you you too mattered. So that is something I would
Oh,
say.
there's another one.
Yes. All right.
There's another question for us.
Do you want to read that?
It's what lie has convinced you to live like an absolute truth?
Oh, wow.
It's a difficult one, I guess.
That,
A very introspective question.
yes. I don't remember the question in the book, but it's question number, somewhere around the first set, 34. What lie has convinced you enough to live like a truth? My answer to that is that you are indispensable. आपके बिना दुनिया नहीं चल सकती. ऐसा जब आपको लोग महसूस करवाते हैं, that is an absolute lie, but it is a comforting truth. Because my English teacher, Pragati Kapoor ma'am, in school said a very wonderful thing to all of us. She said, आप जब घर जाएं, तो नहाते हुए बाल्टी में when you fill the water, put your hand and rotate your hand for as long as you can and as long as you want. I did that when I came home. When I removed my hand, there is a vacuum that's created as soon as your hand comes out of the bucket. And she said, that is your position in the world. As long as you're in the bucket, you hold space. But as soon as you remove hand, there's going to be a vacuum. But धीरे 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 पानी अपनी सतह पर और अपने same उस पे आ जाता है. And that is how we are in the world. We will be missed. We will be loved and we will be longed for. But we are not indispensable. There is somebody who can always fill in our shoes. But as long as you're in the bucket of the world, try to make the best out of it. And that's how I try to live life. I fail 300 times a day, but I try that tomorrow I can fail only 299. And that's good enough.
You've had so many people who have given so much inspiration to you over the years, and that you remember it. That's very, very unusual of a person to remember such little tidbits of knowledge that people give us.
Yes.
So thank you so much for being with us today. It's been amazing and an absolute wonder.
Thank you.
For the nerds out there, you know what to do. Go check out this amazing, amazing book and other works by Deepak Ramola. He's an amazing person and just an absolute delight to the world.
Thank you so
and
much.
For more book related content, you can follow Book Nerds on Instagram and Facebook. Till then, thank you so much for watching and see you next time.
Thank you so much to you and everybody who tuned in. Get your copies of the book and let us know which is the toughest question you liked. And thank you again for all your encouragement. It warms my heart. Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.